At night, some of the most expensive towers in Manhattan look almost switched off. A few windows glow. Hundreds remain dark. From the street, Billionaires Row can feel less like a neighborhood and more like a row of private vaults in the sky. But darkness does not automatically mean abandonment. So what is really happening inside these towers? The first mystery begins after sunset. Looking north from Midtown, the towers beside Central Park appear impossibly thin, bright at the edges, and strangely quiet in the middle. Some floors show warm living rooms. Others reveal no movement at all. The contrast is powerful because these are not ordinary apartment blocks. They were designed as the most exclusive addresses in one of the busiest cities on Earth. Billionaires Row is not a single official building. It is the informal name for the cluster of luxury residential towers around West 57th Street and the southern edge of Central Park. 157, 432 Park Avenue, 220 Central Park South, 111 West 57th Street, and Central Park Tower became symbols of a new vertical version of extreme wealth. The phrase half-empty is deliberately provocative, but it needs care. A dark apartment can be unsold. It can be a second home. Its owner may be traveling. Its lights may simply be off. And a building with many unsold units is not the same thing as a building with no residents. The real story is more complicated than one dramatic aerial photograph. First, there is sales emptiness. A developer can complete a tower before every residence has found a buyer. At the extreme top of the market, each sale can take time. A small number of large residences means one unfinished sale represents a visible share of the entire building. That does not make the tower a failure. It means the buyer pool is extremely narrow. Second, there is occupancy emptiness. Many high-end Manhattan homes are used part of the year. The owner may live in London, Miami, Dubai, Los Angeles, or another New York property. From a street below, a rarely used home and a permanently vacant home can look identical. A dark window cannot tell you whether furniture, staff, and an owner are inside the broader system behind it. Third, there is visual emptiness. These towers are built very differently from a normal city apartment building. Some floors hold only one residence. Ceilings are high. Windows are large. Corridors are hidden. When a single full-floor home goes dark, it creates a large black slice of skyline. The architecture itself makes low visible occupancy look even more dramatic. The rise of Billionaires Row was made possible by a rare combination of land, views, and development rules. The south edge of Central Park offers an almost irreplaceable panorama. 57th Street also accumulated air rights and development potential over many years. Builders discovered that a very slender tower could create a limited number of enormous homes with views that no ordinary building could copy. The result was a race upward. The towers needed to be tall enough to see over surrounding buildings and narrow enough to make every home feel separate. Their height was not only a design statement. Height created distance from traffic, neighbors, and the ordinary density of Manhattan. The apartment became less like a city flat and more like a private observatory. That is why the towers look so unusual. Their proportions are closer to engineered instruments than conventional apartment blocks. Deep foundations, tuned mass dampers, strong cores, and carefully designed facades all work together to control movement in the wind. The homes at the top sell an emotion, silence above the city. The engineering has to make that emotion physically possible. For a conventional buyer, a home is usually a place to sleep, cook, and return to every day. At the top of this market, a residence can also be a store of value, a family base, a business convenience, a long-term holding, or simply an option to use later. That does not mean every buyer treats the apartment as a financial product. It means ownership has more than one purpose. This changes the rhythm of the building. A normal apartment tower fills with school runs, grocery deliveries, commuters, and constant lights at breakfast. A trophy residence may remain quiet for weeks and become active only when its owner arrives with guests, staff, or family. The lobby can be fully staffed while the upper floors remain almost invisible from the street. The small number of homes also changes the social life of the tower. A building with dozens of large residences may have far fewer daily encounters than a typical Manhattan co-op. There may be private elevators, separate service entrances, and homes that open directly into their own floor. The architecture is designed to reduce accidental contact, not create a busy community corridor. Privacy is one reason these addresses remain attractive even when the market slows. A full floor, a private lift, and a protected view deliver something difficult to reproduce elsewhere. A buyer is not only choosing marble or a branded lobby. They are choosing to control who sees their arrival, who lives next door, and how much of the city can enter their private life. The view is another part of the promise. Central Park turns an apartment into a framed landscape that changes every day. But views can be fragile. New construction can alter a skyline, and bad weather can erase it for weeks. Developers therefore sell not only the glass wall itself, but the feeling that the owner has purchased a permanent front row seat above New York. Yet extreme privacy creates a paradox. The more successfully a building shields its residents from public life, the more empty it can appear to everyone outside. No balconies full of people, no crowded hallways, no visible routine. The tower can look dormant precisely because it was engineered to make private life disappear behind stone, glass, and security layers. The luxury market also moves differently from the wider housing market. There are only so many buyers who want a full-floor home high above Central Park, and each buyer can choose among several landmark towers. A developer may keep a residence on the market longer rather than accept a transaction that changes the building's image. At this level, patience can become part of the sales strategy. Public city records show that luxury units do continue to trade in this part of Manhattan. At the same time, resale reporting has shown that some owners sell below earlier expectations, while other exceptional homes still attract major buyers. That mixture is the key. Billionaires Row is not one market. Each tower, floor plan, view, condition, and seller can behave differently. This is why one spectacular transaction cannot prove that the whole corridor is thriving, and one dark tower cannot prove that the whole corridor is failing. The market is thin. A small number of transactions can reshape the headlines. The better question is not whether a tower has a single winner or loser. It is whether the building can keep finding the specific buyers its design requires. A super-tall residence also demands a large hidden operating system. Engineers monitor elevators, water pressure, climate, security, fire safety, facade maintenance, and wind movement. Staff manage deliveries, visitors, and service routes. The dark skyline hides a building that must remain ready even when few owners are physically present. Luxury does not remove complexity. It moves complexity out of view. That complexity explains why buildings of this type cannot be judged only by lights in the windows. A tower may be quiet at midnight, but intensely active below ground, in its loading dock, mechanical floors, and staff areas. The public sees a thin glowing line above the park. The building team sees a continuous machine that has to work every hour of the year. So what can the dark windows actually prove? They can prove that these towers do not live like ordinary residential blocks. They can reveal the visual consequences of part-time ownership, large full-floor homes, and slow sales. But they cannot identify an owner, prove a motive, or turn a single night into a complete occupancy study. Good documentary storytelling needs that distinction. The mystery remains compelling because the skyline makes wealth visible while daily life stays hidden. We can see the towers from almost anywhere in the city. We can count the lights. But we cannot see the private routines inside the homes, the negotiations behind a sale, or the reasons a family chooses to keep a residence dark. Architecture turns uncertainty into spectacle. At ground level, the contradiction becomes even clearer. Tens of thousands of people pass through Midtown every day. Trains arrive, theaters fill, hotels change guests, and restaurants open their doors. Above that movement sit homes designed to be calm, nearly silent and separate from the city beneath them. Billionaires Row is not empty Manhattan. It is Manhattan divided vertically. That vertical divide is why the subject travels so well online. People are not only curious about luxury interiors. They are reacting to a strange visual. A city with a housing shortage, enormous activity at street level, and dark homes high above it. The image invites an easy conclusion. The real explanation requires more patience, and that makes the story stronger. These towers are really monuments to a new definition of luxury. The old model was a large home in a prestigious neighborhood. The new model is a controlled altitude, private lift, enormous view, limited neighbors, hotel-level service, and the option to disappear. The apartment is less about being at the center of New York than about having New York visible without having to join it. That promise will always attract some buyers. But it also means the buildings depend on a very specific audience, a global group with the means and desire to own a vertical private world. When that audience pauses, the skyline shows it immediately. A few more dark floors appear. The building becomes a visible record of how narrow the market at the top can be. So why does Billionaires Row feel half empty? Because its towers were never designed to behave like normal neighborhoods. They contain fewer homes, more part-time owners, longer sales cycles, and far more privacy than a conventional building. Some residences remain unsold. Some are used rarely, some are occupied quietly. From outside, all three can look exactly the same. The darkness is real, but its meaning is not simple. It is the visual signature of a city where a home can be a residence, a refuge, an asset, and a private viewing platform all at once. The towers are not just selling square footage. They are selling distance from everyone else. And at night, that distance is the only thing the skyline lets us see. The question is not only who owns these towers. It is what a home becomes when privacy, height, and scarcity matter more than daily occupancy. Subscribe to Luxury Exclusive for evidence-led stories about extraordinary architecture and private worlds. If you want to be a billionaire, like, subscribe, and comment. God bless you.